Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Yeah, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare वैष्णव ठाकुर की, Aindra Prabhu की, निताय सची सुता की, शिल प्रभुपाद की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, बोल जय जय श्री राधे।
Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Can you hear me? Hare Hare Hare. Krishna Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Balaram, 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 Jaya Radha, Tama Sundara, Tama Sundara.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Mudare Smade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vivinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastatari Siddharine. I feel honored, and it's a great privilege for me to be amongst you all, honoring our great Aindra Prabhu. I would say as long as Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir is being worshipped here in Krishna Balaram Temple, Radha Shama Sutta, Lalita Pusaka, Sisibolita, and Srila Prabhupada, Aindra Prabhu will never be forgotten. And for that matter, it's one of the icons in ISKCON. And as long as there is chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which means for the next 10,000 years, Aindra Prabhu will be there with us. I first met Aindra Prabhu in 1987, which I believe most of you are still in the womb of a different mother and a different species. I first remember meeting him, it was like after the morning Bhagavad-Gita class, he was alone there, meeting another devotee. And so he started to sing, and no one is playing Vedanta. And I know a little bit of Vedanta, like Chak Vedanta. Not really expert like Gopal Prabhu. And I remember my hands almost like bleeding after the Kirtan. Somehow that was very memorable for me, and we started to have some kind of friendship, relationship. And he told me one time that if you ever leave your Prabhu-Dutta days, because I joined in Toronto, Canada, you joined 24-hour Kirtan choir. So it was like really an honor for me. The first time I met the 24-hour Kirtan devotees, it was in Kumamela with Aindra Prabhu and that devotee from Malaysia. So I'm original Kirtan devotees, 24-hour Kirtan devotees. I cannot figure out how they are very dedicated and very expert in expressing themselves during the Kirtan. And many years pass, every time I see Aindra Prabhu, I would ask him, Prabhu, do you have any new tape? New CDs? Because he would make first one's Vrindavan mellows. So every time I see him, I ask him for a new recorded Kirtan. And somehow I left Toronto, and that was in 1997. So my main purpose is that I'm going to go and join Aindra Prabhu. I was thinking of Toronto Temple and said, I'm going to join Aindra Prabhu. That's it. I'm going to go to Vrindavan, surrender. Somehow or other I joined for some time, and then my Guru Maharaj says, is that all you're going to do? You come. Who is present right now here in the Balaram Hall are youths. Somehow we were, not a youth, but when I say we, probably 3 times your age. We were captured by Aindra Prabhu's magic. When I say magic means it's very mystical how just by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra purely, he captured the hearts of the whole ISKCON, especially the young people, you, amongst you. And because his chanting is Sudanam, his chanting is not like us. We're just trying to be like him. We're just like touching, not even touching, we're like scratching the surface of how to chant the holy name of the Lord purely, like him. Such an inspiration. He put so much time, so much energy, so much effort in coming to that platform of chanting purely the holy name of the Lord, which is our goal. This is, if you're in Vrindavan and your goal is not to chant the holy name purely, then you will never be able to get it anywhere else. Maybe you'll be able to get, but it will take a long, long, long time. But here, you can get it instantly. The whole secret of chanting purely the holy name of the Lord is you have to have that surrender mood in serving Sri Guru and Vaishnavas. Like Aindra Prabhu. Some of his god brothers and some in ISKCON, they're saying, oh, he's very different. Why is he like this? Why is he like that? But he's chanting the holy name of the Lord purely. You will never see him at Govinda's. You will before there was Bihari Lal, cross the street. You will never see him there with a thumbs up. You will not see him roaming around frivolously. If you want to really chant like Aindra Prabhu in that level of purity, you have to be as chaste as him, as he was.
We should not be, it's like pujaris in Mayapur. You don't see them like roaming around here and there. You know, it's like pujaris has to be chaste. So kirtaniyas also has to be chaste in their life. If whatever their everyday life is, when it comes to kirtan, it reflects. So, Aindra Prabhu, either he's in the temple room, or he's in his room, or he is in the bathroom, or he's in the washroom. 3 places only you have to search for him, and you'll find him. Well, sometimes if he's inside his room, you may not also find him inside, because he has a secret way how to not be recognized that he is inside. Incognito, camouflage. And he's the only one, and some of his close associates will know that he is there at that time. We have to remind ourselves that we have to chant. In order to chant kirtan purely, you have to also try to chant your japa purely. It's like a correlation between the two. I know some they like to chant kirtan, but when it comes to japa, maybe I chant today. I don't like to chant today. I'm not in the mood to chant my japa today. Tomorrow maybe I'll double it. But then it all piles up. So, it reflects. And you should also read Prabhupada's books. Along with the Kirtan, Prabhupada says we should also read his books. So some like Kirtan, but they don't like reading, they don't like japa. It will not work. Maybe for some time we'll say, Haribol, Haribol. But then after a long time, there's no more Haribol, Haribol. So my suggestion to you, which I am still in that process of to attain Sudanam, is that whenever you can, come for the morning program. I know some of you, especially in the 24-hour Kirtan department, you have your shifts in different timings during the day. Some are midnight, some are like, from 7 to 10 or something, right? There's still time. If you really want to come for the morning program or part of the morning program, come. It's like we mentioned that in our Srimad Bhagavatam class this morning, how sadhana is very, very important. As Prabhupada says also, first your health, be sure you're fit, not fat, fit to do kirtan or to do any service, and then your sadhana. Sadhana. Prabhupada gave us a formula, like a sandwich program, morning program and then evening program, and in between we do practical service. So in this way, it reflects what you do during the whole day, and when you chant your rounds, and when you perform and join in the Harinam Sankirtan, it reflects. It is not a matter of showing how we chant nicely or how we chant many melodies or different tunes every time. No, it can be so simple. Like Srila Prabhupada, he chanted a very simple melody, but it attracted the whole world. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You cannot get simpler than that. But simple and good and with purity. So my suggestions to everyone, whether you're in the Kirtan department or you're doing Pujari service or making garlands, everything that we offer to the Supreme Lord actually is always accompanied by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, especially japa. Japa is a must, and we have to really hear attentively our chanting and try to not commit any aparad in chanting the holy name. So in this way, I'm sure the next generation, your children, your children's children, your children's children's children will be so powerful and actually will be able to save the world from being in catastrophic way, barbarians. Prabhupada says that they'll be noted in the history of the world that our movement will save the world from being barbarians. So it starts right now. You here. If you don't do it, don't expect that your kids or their children's, it's not gonna work. You have to start now. We have to think of the next generation. And I'm sure Srila Prabhupada will be so proud of us by the efforts and how we try to look of our future, what's going to be. And I'm sure Aindra Prabhu will be very, very happy for us. And he's always with us. He's always there. Where is his picture? Well, his picture there, but he's always a picture also in the temple room. So my request to you, be mindful that you are representing Aindra Prabhu. That's why we're here, right? We try to represent Aindra Prabhu the way he wanted us to be. So in this way, he'll be really proud. And he's always watching us, actually. In spirit, he's always with us. His Vani is there. Bapu may not be there, but Vani is more important. So we have to come to his standard, the way he expecting us, what is to be like him. We may not be exactly like him, but if we follow in his footsteps, that is the best thing that we can do. And I'm very happy to be back in Braj. I was thinking, okay, first I would like to be with Kumbh Mela. And then I like to be with the boat festival. But I never expect that I will be here. This is Aindra pulled me over here. Seriously. Many of the 24-hour Kirtan departments, devotees like Ramrai Prabhu, who else? Who are not here, but they wish that they'll be here in person. Vrindavan especially, I've been in contact with Amala Purana Prabhu. Many of them. Prashant, I met him in Baltimore. So many of them. They're all like scattered all over the planet. But I'm sure they also pray and wish that they are here amongst all of us. So it's such a great privilege and honor to be here present amongst you. But we should also not take it for granted. This is like many are watching on YouTube or Facebook page of 24-hour Kirtan Live, and they wish they're all here also as well. So my request is not just those who are present here. Many are watching in Russia for sure. They love Aindra Prabhu in Russia so much. You don't have realization how they love him over there. They have their own Kirtan Mela there as well. In Moscow, in Yaroslavl, St. Petersburg, so many places. So this is our lineage now. From Prabhupada through the disciplic succession, through his disciples, through Aindra Prabhu. So we should be part of this great family. We belong to the same roof where we live all together. So let's be more serious. We don't have much time to live. Who knows how much time you have left? Could be next week, or actually we only have 7 days to live. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Any one of those days we can die. So let's make it the best effort. Try our very best to be sincere, chant the holy name of the Lord purely, and help others as well in going back to Godhead. This is the purpose of the Sankirtan movement, not just ourselves, but for the entire world.
So just reminded me when you were talking about the Mridanga. You played for Aindra Prabhu Mridanga, and there are many devotees who played Mridanga for Aindra Prabhu. It was a special experience. You see, when you play Mridanga for someone, you have to accompany and support the particular expression and mood of that person, where he wants to go with his kirtan. And you have to catch on to that. You know, you have to have that sense, that sixth sense, or maybe just common sense. You know. And he didn't like the overcomplicated tehais, you know, these endings and complicated mantras, when it was too much distracting him from the bhava or the mood he was trying to express. And he expressed it to you on the spot, you know. If you knew Aindra, you know, he wanted to say something to you, he did it right away. He was in your face. He didn't settle for a complacement or whatsoever. And so, you know, he told me that all these tehais left and right and up and down, all I need is chicky chicky boom boom, chicky chicky boom boom, chicky chicky. He was a country boy in a mature body, so of course he was left the country boy mood for a long time ago, right after he joined. But he was a very funny personality. He was joking all the time. Okay? And we were talking about Ram Roy Prabhu. It just reminded me, Ram Roy Prabhu sent an offering, asked me to read it out to you, read it to Aindra Prabhu. So I'm going to read it to you. Then I also have Radha Krishna Prabhu, who he was here also for a long time and loves Aindra Prabhu very, very much. So Aindra came to New York, to Vrindavan, and Radha Krishna Prabhu went to Vrindavan to New York, and now he's feeling the moods of separation from Vrindavan, from Aindra Prabhu. So this is Ram Roy Prabhu's offering to Aindra Prabhu. Dear Aindra Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is a quote from his book. Please remember, and I beseech you again and again, worldwide grassroots Sankirtan revolution. Actually, it's not from his book. It's from Mayapur during the Kirtan Mela. Aindra started the Kirtan Mela in Mayapur. It's a little different from what it is now. And during the Kirtan, he stopped. Fired up, very fired up Kirtan. Tumultuous, uproaring Kirtan. And he stopped. And if you hear on the recording, he says, in Kali Yuga, you have to get fired up. So true. If you don't get fired up, you have no chance. You have no chance. So, anyway, and then he continued. So this is one sentence when he said then, please remember, and I beseech you again and again, worldwide grassroots Sankirtan revolution. And Ram Roy Prabhu continues, your most momentous speech spoken in Sri Varshana Dham. Sorry, it's not even my... The clarion call to the brave and faithful has been loudly ringing and reverberating through every fiber of my soul. Every day since you are departed. Quote again from Aindra Prabhu, it's not a joke, it's the real thing. Do Harinam Sankirtan on the streets of all the major cities of the world every day for as many hours a day as possible, and you will get there, back home, back to Godhead. Guaranteed. I guarantee it. Not that I guarantee it, Lord Chaitanya guarantees it. And all the previous acharyas, including Srila Prabhupada, it's the right thing to do. Somehow or another, against all odds, the humble attempt to serve Harinam Sankirtan in this, as Srila Prabhupada himself called, New York City, the most important city in the most important country of the world, is now entering its 10th year. The past 1 year and the uncertainty of what lies ahead has brought the other part of your Varshana speech to a new focus and urgency. Bless. Again, a quote from Aindra Prabhu, global tyranny is on its way. Who knows what conditions the demons will impose on us at a later date. Don't think otherwise. Here is a letter where Srila Prabhupada urges us to have full faith in the supreme potency of the holy name and the absolute protection from Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, I can understand your concern about the deterioration of the civilization. Yes, the city will be a more dangerous place as Kali Yuga advances. It will be very deteriorating. The modern civilization is so corrupt, and as sinful activities are more and more committed, the people will be forced to face more troubles by nature's order. Our business, however, is simply to take shelter of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and pray to the holy name to give us protection. We shall be unaffected by all that will happen. Krishna will provide us with working facilities. Be assured of this, that the devotees will be protected by the holy name. Others will have to suffer in the days that are coming. So this is a letter to Kurukshetra on 1973. Gopal told me recently, Gopal sitting here, that 1 year after I said goodbye for the summer to you in your room, Aindra Prabhu remarked that he respects that I have a taste for preaching in New York. Coming from you who always stress staying in Vrindavan meant and means a lot. I have been doing this 9 years now. I am 62 and feeling it becoming physically more difficult to keep going as I used to. I am always hoping, praying and desiring for devotees to come forward to help with real understanding and right motivation. Just like you were desiring for 24-hour Kirtan, the attraction to live in New York City, no comparison really, compared to Vrindavan requires an extra special qualification. Here is one of my favorite quotes from Srila Prabhupada, who himself exemplified the supreme mood of heroism. Quote, Chanakya Pandit says, Sannimite varam tyago vinashe niyate sati. Everything within this material world will be destroyed, and therefore one should use everything for good purposes. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for a great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. Srimad Bhagavatam 6:6. The Dichi Muni agrees to sacrifice his body. You choose to remain in New York City for 5 years with the correct understanding. It's a lazy, intelligent preacher's paradise. There's the focus and understanding that makes this, as you said, the only other place to be except Vrindavan. It is my hope and prayer that New York City Harinam will continue uninterrupted. I pray for brave, pure-hearted, faithful, strong, and well-motivated young men to come and join me to take up this service. It's up to Krishna how long he will keep me here. I would like that what I have started as my offering to Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada, and yourself will continue without interruption. The vision is that the New York City Harinam party be as vibrant and dynamic as the Vrindavan party. The ultimate perfection will be when New York City Harinam becomes 24 hours. Everybody send your blessings. Hari! All the Rice Krispies need to go. Snap, crackle, and pop. Is to pour on the milk. So just add the devotees who are faithful, fixed, determined, and fired up, and the miracle will happen. The best thing that has happened over the past year has been that myself and the Harinam party no longer have to fend for ourselves, but are where we are always supposed to be, at the feet of Sri Sri Radha Govinda at 305 Schermerhorn Street, Brooklyn, New York. Full circle, back to the place where we first met 40 years ago, and we were together a joyous 5 years when you were doing the Tour Mobile Harinam Temple program. You were aged 28, 33, and I was 22, 27. We are actually having our observance in the place now called the Lotus Room in the temple, where you performed your first Chaturmasya fast in 1983. Radha Govinda's altar still has the same basic framework that you constructed 40 years ago. That you would be 68 today is hard to imagine. You are and will always be remembered in the prime of your life, giving all your strength and youth, full on, fired up, and back home, back to Godhead in one life. All glories to you, Aindra Prabhu. Till we meet again, I'm doing this for you. Shri Ram Roy Das.
Hare Krishna. So I remember back in 1993 I came here. We moved from Florida to Vrindavan, and Aindra Prabhu was very much enthusiastic and daily doing his Harinam in the temple room with all the devotees. And also producing his first CD at that time. Were you here? No, I came in 93. 93.
Hey.
Yeah, anyway, we started producing the CDs. Yeah. Aindra was soft as a rose and hard as a thunderbolt. No nonsense. He was very strict with the devotees to stay focused on the Harinam, the chanting, the heart, feeling the mantra. When we would go up to our room there, where Nitai Gaur Sundar, Nitai Sachi Sutta, and you could smell the gobar and the offerings, all the deities, the shilas, and yes, all the various offerings for the deities, the aroma, and you just felt like you were transported to an ancient time. And a Gopal was there. Many of the devotees would come and sit together and just discuss the great opportunity that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, and his hardness and his severity was only to keep the focus on the holy name and carrying out the mission. Srila Prabhupada wanted a 24-hour kirtan, so with great endeavor and enthusiasm, he kept it together, motivated, set the rules and regulations. But at the same time, it's hard to see, but he had a very soft heart, very loving, very emotional. So this is a tradition and culture, the holy name, the gathering, the chanting, the expression of love, expression of culture, expression of emotional feelings. So it's not just a routine that we're all getting together and making a lot of noise, but it's actually an expression of love from the heart. And by remembering the devotees who've dedicated their lives, like Aindra Prabhu, I remember one time I was host for Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, and we let Aindra Prabhu speak, and he was very, very outspoken. He's speaking very the way he felt. So although there are some people consider him eccentric or a little bit over the top, but he wasn't concerned with externalities and just looking for being he wanted to be a team player. And of course, sometimes in our society and our organization, we may look at someone who's a little bit eccentric in a critical eye. But as far as management goes, as far as when I was there, we'd always have a soft heart for Aindra Prabhu, and whenever you have any concerns or difficulties, they would come, and we are a family, and I've seen the family grow. Wherever you go in the world, in the kitchen, in the hallways, and the festivals, you hear the kirtans of Aindra Prabhu, and it's inspired the youth in particular, as Ram Roy was saying, getting older, you know, and the same energy may not be there, but that wisdom and that tradition that he's carrying on is being accepted and carried on by all the youth here. I'm very actually pleased and happy with the enthusiasm, the talent, and the heart of conviction of all those who are participating and glorifying the Harinam and giving happiness to Aindra Prabhu that is spreading all over the world, setting a good example. I'll set a good example if I stop speaking now and let others speak. Aindra Prabhu ki Hare Krishna.
Aindra Prabhu ki jai. Aindra Prabhu was one of the most dearest personalities loved in our ISKCON Vrindavan temple. As mentioned before, he had a very humorous side, and our relationship as God brother and God sister was very humorous. And also, Aindra Prabhu was always reminding me of the importance of chanting. Chanting and hearing attentively is everything that Srila Prabhupada has given us. And he would talk about how each har, re, ma, each krish, na, all the personality of Krishna, his pastimes, his himself, is in each syllable of the Maha Mantra. And every time I would hear this, and then I would see him chanting, I could see he was actually feeling the potency of the Maha Mantra. And I was always thanking him for bringing all these young men from all over the world, and now I see that the group has grown so wonderfully, and as someone was mentioning, devotees from all over the world, and all the ladies also who serve so meticulously Aindra's deities, and they wash the cloth, and they do many things that maybe others don't know about. But many devotees all over the world are dedicated to pushing on Aindra Prabhu's understanding of the holy name. And the Pujari was passing out these Maha flowers. I wanted to throw these on all the boys today. Because when I see all of you, I get so much, I get so inspired. And I just want to also mention, I was telling Govinda Prabhu the other day, as most of you know, I've been doing elder care, devotee care for many decades now. And I want to say that when an elderly person maybe can't do so much or their health is down, I've seen when they come into the temple, they sit under the tamal tree or they sit with you, immediately their consciousness is lifted. So your service is affecting people in so many different ways, not only just spiritually, but even on a health level. The people come from outside and they're so mesmerized, and you can see that they come in maybe this, and then they sit down with the kirtan group, and immediately they feel somewhat calmed. And I too, sometimes I'm having a heavy day and I just come into the temple room and I let the holy name just wash over me, and instantly I feel, a little bit better about the situation. So Aindra Prabhu, oh yeah, someone was reminding me this morning, there's a famous picture where we're at a Goshala festival, and I'm whispering something into Aindra's ear, and you see he's got this mischievous smile on his face. And what I'm saying to him, his book was just coming out at that time, and it was very controversial. And of course that made us want to read it more. So we were telling him that we were thinking of putting a little silver band on the, one of those little silver ribbons on the corner of the book, and have it say banned by the GBC, and it would be a bestseller overnight. And he just loved that. Of course we didn't do that, but he liked that mood of that. What he had to say, as I believe Panchagoda Prabhu was saying, he spoke from his own realizations, his very powerful realizations of how the holy name had affected his heart, how Srila Prabhupada had affected his life. And he was very bold about that. And whether you liked it or not, basically everything he said was the truth. And especially about the holy name. And I'm very indebted to my dear God brother for inspiring me and for inspiring devotees from all over the world to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
As he just said, yes, I said, I, of course, coming to Vrindavan over the years, I would see Aindra Prabhu. I was one of the unfortunate people. He was too Krishna conscious for me. I've never been on that level of Krishna consciousness so intense, other than being with Srila Prabhupada, of course, who was also, that's what it takes. And I do, over the last year being here, hopefully I've learned some things, and I appreciate what Aindra Prabhu has done so much. We all know the saying, you can judge a tree by the fruit. And seeing how many, not just hundreds, but thousands of devotees that he's given his energy to, his Krishna consciousness to, his Sankirtan to, which, I've spent over the last some years reading Prabhupada letters, because I have that, to me, everything is personal. And I am very comfortable reading Prabhupada's morning walks, reading his letters, things where it's very personal. And I see how much Prabhupada emphasized. He even said it, even to his editors, the Sankirtan was more important than editing his books. There was nothing more important than editing Srila Prabhupada's books for us. And yet Prabhupada told his disciple editors, you go out on Sankirtan. At that time, 1968, 1969, it only meant one thing. It meant standing on the corner and chanting Hare Krishna, so that everyone could benefit. All the people could benefit, animals could benefit. Prabhupada said everyone benefits by hearing the Maha Mantra. So I think we can say no one understood that principle of Sankirtan more than Aindra Prabhu. And to bring it to this place, what Prabhupada wanted to Vrindavan and establish it for forever here in Vrindavan, is quite a wonderful service. He certainly, as we know, had the blessings of Srila Prabhupada. He took them for service wherever he took them, like many of his disciples he has. And I've learned over the past several months, I have very much appreciation for all of you who follow him in his service, carry it on. And I see so much dedication, so much regularity. And Prabhu here does wonderful service, taking care of all these devotees. And I'm happy every now and then to be able to come and sit down for some time with all of you and just take in that Krishna consciousness that Aindra has shared with everyone. So like I said, although I didn't get to speak to him very much, I can appreciate more and more as the years go by what he has done for Prabhupada's society. So I'd like to thank him for that and thank all of you who are taking part all around the world. Yeah, like we heard from Ram Roy, that was Ayendra's other place, right? New York City. He said if anywhere outside of Vrindavan, it was New York City. It's where Prabhupada started this society. So it's we can just see how everything goes on by those who follow the instructions of the Guru very carefully. I'd just like to thank all of you, and particularly Aindra Prabhu, for what they've done here in Vrindavan to make being here very complete. Always seeing Kirtan going on in front of Krishna Balaram. Aindra Prabhu ki jai.
I met Aindra Prabhu in 1984 when I joined the movement in New York. I was a slow starter, but I met the devotees in 1967. And I liked everything, but I had doubts. By 1984, my doubts were clear enough that I joined. Now, I don't know how many have had this experience, but you may read a book and you think it was a good book and it meant a lot to you, but you can only remember one thing in the book or two things. It might have been 1,000 pages. The first year that I served at Radha Govinda Mandir in New York City, Aindra was leading Kirtan often, and he was also taking out a Harinam party. And I had the privilege of going out on that Harinam party and distributing books. I want to paint a picture with my words. Maybe you've heard of the mobile temple that Aindra created, the Harinam truck. If you haven't seen it, you can go online and you can find a picture of it. It was exquisite, and he built it with his hands. He built it with his heart and his mind and his hands. There were Gandharvas, there were Apsaras, there were fluted pillars, and he made it so that inside it looked like a temple. There was a chandelier on the ceiling. There were mirrors on the walls. Deities were there. There was an oriental rug on the floor, and the Kirtan party would sit on the floor and chant. On either side of the mobile temple, you had dioramas. One was that karma diorama, you know. There's the man with the bull's head, and the cow with the human head, and the man's got the axe. And then there was changing bodies on the other side. Now, I've been living in Vrindavan by Guru's grace now for a year plus. And sometimes you see the Parikrama Marg, it's just so, on an Ekadashi, it's just so crowded. Well, New York has a kind of Parikrama of its own. And it's not going back to Godhead. Except that Aindra would bring that mobile temple to that place, and the holy name would be pouring out like honey, like light, like salvation into the streets. And when people would see the changing bodies, or they'd see that karma diorama, they'd be arrested. And then the holy name would penetrate and we'd come up with a book. It was absolutely marvelous. We'd be in front of, let's say, the library at 42nd Street and 5th Avenue. Literally, every minute, 150, 200, 300, 500 people would be passing, and they'd all be hearing the holy name, and many would get a book. Everyone's life was changed. So I did that with Aindra. I remember one day, and I particularly want to present this picture to you. It's like that book, The Year. You know, the year passed, but I remember one thing in that year very vividly. It was what I'm about to describe. I was driving the truck home. It was a box van, so it was big and bulky, and New York is clogged with traffic. I was a little tense because I didn't want there to be any collision because of my negligence. So I was really looking at the road and looking at the other drivers. Aindra was in the passenger seat, I was behind the wheel, and I'm driving. In the back, the Sankirtan boys were, and the books and the instruments. So I had great cargo, you know, very precious cargo, the most precious cargo in the world. So I'm really being attentive to drive safely, and Aindra's telling me a story. I had never heard this story. I didn't know that it was about Bilvamangala Thakur. But somehow or other, the way he was telling the story, I became absolutely fascinated. How this Vaishnava was somehow distracted and absorbed in an illicit relationship with Chintamani, and how the stormy night, I think everybody knows the story, yes, I don't need to detail the story, but I had never heard it. And Aindra described the stormy weather, the swollen river, him grabbing the crocodile to get across the river, you know, him grabbing a snake to scale the wall. And I'm listening, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How Chintamani, his guru, spoke through her and said, if you had a fraction of the energy and desire to serve Krishna that you have to be with me, you'd be a pure devotee. And it changed his heart, and he went on his way to Vrindavan. But as we know the story, he again became distracted by his lower nature. And he recognized the culprit. So Aindra, I'm driving, and I've got my eyes on the road. I'm not looking at Aindra, but I'm absolutely fascinated and drawn totally into the story that he's telling. And he describes how he asks the Brahmin's wife, I saw some sewing needles on the porch when we came in. Could you bring those, please? And she obliged. And then Aindra described how he took the sewing needles and he gouged out his eyes. That you have been my enemies, you're taking me away from Krishna, you're making me blind. By seeing through you, I am blind. I am going to end my relationship with you. So now, just as he was telling that, I was pulling into Radha Govinda Mandir, right in front of the temple. And I parked the car and I said, thank God we didn't have an accident. I'm so happy I'm here. But I want to thank him for telling me this story. And I turned to look at Aindra. Aindra was bathed in his tears. His upper garment, his cloth was soaked with his tears. His face was red and he was covered with the tears. And I looked at him. I had just put the car in brake. He threw open the door and he ran into the temple and disappeared. He didn't want to, he was trying to conceal the bhav that he felt. But that bhav that he felt affected me. He had already affected me by telling me the story. But when I saw the authenticity of his feelings for the holy name, this I remember so vividly. That whole the year was good. It was a good year. I did so many nice things. But that was unforgettable. I'll say one or two other things. I know there are other people who want to speak. I was just talking to Panchagoda for a moment. We were sitting next to each other, and I was saying, yes, like he said, soft as a rose, but he could be so fiery and hard, like a thunderbolt. If on the Harinam, somebody would start to deride the devotees, or make fun of the holy name, or something like that, Aindra would leap off the truck and he'd be face to face with them, and they would back down because he was on fire. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. So we know that all of us are here because a Bhakta gave us bhakti. That's why we're here. In every case, we're here by causeless mercy. Srimati Radharani, Lord Chaitanya, Guru Krishna, Rasade Bai. But some of us who come are coming with a past. And certainly Aindra is one of those. He came here with something to do. He came here, he wasn't an ordinary person. I mean, we're all fortunate, we're all mercy cases, but what he has been able to do, I guess I'll finish up by saying this. Before I came to Vrindavan a year and a half ago, I was in New York City, and I would see Ram Roy's Harinam party very often. I would chant with them, I would distribute books there, and I visited their ashram. I know the austerities that they went through. And again, New York, the parade of people that goes by the Harinam party, dead of winter, freezing cold, they're in the subway. Thousands of people every minute are passing by and hearing the holy name. And same in the summer, they're outdoors, they're at Union Square. So Aindra is active still. That's the point I want to make. Through all of the kirtaniyas, through his CDs, through his literature, through the spark of inspiration that he lit in our hearts with his kirtan, which is so unique, so extraordinary, so beautiful.
So I didn't prepare, but I did not prepare, but I found something that I had stored on my device some time ago, and it's a pastime that was originally related by His Grace Dinabandhu Prabhu, and then I'm afraid I didn't store the main author of the story. This microphone, anyone who wants to speak with this microphone has to stick it in their mouth, practically, because it doesn't have very much sound. So, and also speak loudly. So this is a pastime that was retold by Dinabandhu Prabhu some years ago, and it was also, I believe it was in the Back to Godhead magazine by one ISKCON devotee, and I'm afraid I don't have her name, but here's the pastime. Once upon a time, that's how it goes. Once upon a time, in the late 1990s, a 5-year-old girl staying at the MVT with her parents here in Vrindavan for the first time during Mangal Arti realizes that the reason why we chant is to ask Krishna for service. But she doesn't have any service. So she goes back to the MVT garden and sees some pink lilies in one of the water tanks and innocently decides to pick one. But before she does, the chokidar, the watchman, starts shouting at her. Just then, Dinabandhu Prabhu happened to be nearby chanting rounds on his japamala and saw the commotion. So he went on over and asked the little girl what she wanted to do with the lily that she was just about to pluck. The small girl replied that she wanted to offer it to the deities at the temple. Dinabandhu Prabhu then told her to wait right there while he and the watchman, the chokidar, went off somewhere. Having cleverly distracted the chokidar in some way or another, Dinabandhu then himself picked a lily from another tank in the MVT complex, and without anyone's knowledge, quickly hid the lily in his side bag, proceeded to where the small girl was waiting for him at the other water tank. As he approached her, he gave her the lily and told her to knock on the pujari room door back at the temple and give it to the pujaris. After she arrived, she saw the sign reading, "Pujaris only," and knocked and waited for some time, but no one answered. So she managed to push open the heavy door and went inside. But still, there was no pujari in sight. So then she saw another door that was cracked open a bit and decided to peek behind it. Despite the dimmer light being behind this other door, beside the dimmed light or the lack of light behind this other door, she then proceeded slowly, step by step, until she saw one of the pujaris, and both of their eyes locked. This pujari was Aindra Prabhu. Haribo. By that time, all the other pujaris who were there busily performing the rituals noticed the child that had somehow or other come onto the altar. Being this the inner sanctum, they all hysterically started yelling to try to get her out of the deity room. And so, just at that moment, Aindra roared out loud, "Stop!" And so, he went over to the little girl, picked her up by the waist, and while she was still had the lily in her hand, took her over to the front of the altar, climbed up right in front of the deity of Srimati Radharani, and instructed the little girl to gently place the lily in Srimati Radharani's hand to offer to Krishna. Sripar Kirtan Chandra Namanandi Aindra Das Babaji Maharaj Ki.
Once a few devotees came and were discussing with Aindra Prabhu outside the temple. They were devotees that were more associated with other Vaishnav group outside of ISKCON. And they asked Aindra Prabhu, how can we recognize a sadhu? And Aindra answered by quoting the first line of the Sad Goswami Astaka. He said, Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritam Vati. What is it? So he said, you can recognize a sadhu because that person will always be doing Harinam Sankirtan. And so then the person, they had a doubt. They said, well, What about Aindra Prabhu? What if the sadhu is chanting so much japa? What if they're doing lakhs and lakhs of rounds of Harinam japa? And what if every day they're going around Govardhan several times? You know, sometimes people do it twice a day. And Aindra said, well, Nam Japa isn't the Yuga Dharma. Govardhan Parikram isn't the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan. Just to balance that out on the other side, there was a devotee who went to Aindra Prabhu and he said, Aindra Prabhu, sometimes we see the young devotees, they want to follow you, and so they're really enthusiastic about their kirtan, but they're not that enthusiastic about japa. And you talk to them, they say, we're following Aindra, so we're not so much into japa, we just like to do kirtan. So Aindra said, Prabhu, you know me better than that. I'm chanting 116 rounds of japa every day. If someone wants to follow me, at least they can chant their 16 rounds. Another friend of mine, he asked Aindra Prabhu, how can I make my kirtan more powerful? And Aindra just looked at him, he said, how is your japa? He said, oh, actually it's amazing that you're asking me about that because my japa is not so good. He said, then how can your kirtan be powerful? We asked Aindra Prabhu, why 24-hour kirtan? What's the meaning of 24-hour kirtan? Why do we do that? And so Aindra Prabhu said, if there will be a Harinam party somewhere, let's say in the West, in a city or something, just by the Harinam having done kirtan somewhere, that place will become spiritually surcharged in such a way that even after the Harinam is over, like the Harinam has been completed, now if someone just happens to walk in that same area, they will get spiritual benefit. There's some transcendental vibration that will remain from the kirtan party having done their kirtan there. So he said, so if the Harinam is so powerful that there is still like an after effect, he said, then not to speak of if the kirtan is going on continuously in the same place, then how powerful does that place become? And then further, if that kirtan is done in Vrindavan Dham, where everything is magnified by 1,000 times and more, then how powerful is it to go into that place where the kirtan is done continuously? Just one more comment. I'll just quote something Aindra Prabhu said from a lecture once. It's one thing for someone to shnick, shnick, ram, ram quietly on his japa mala somewhere, but you should know without any shred of doubt that the process of Nam Sankirtan is a louder voice for calling out for Krishna's mercy. The process of Nam Sankirtan is the most viable process for attaining Krishna Prema in this Kali Yuga. It's the most universal process applicable to every living entity, primarily those who have taken the human form of life. But even those who don't have ears like snakes or stones or trees they can be elevated to the spiritual world simply by hearing one recitation of Shuddhanam from the lips of a Shuddha Bhakta. I'll leave it there. Hare Krishna.
Kalo dosha nirajan asit ye eko man asit ye eko man guna kirtaneva krishnasya kirtana de eva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajet. 12th canto, 3rd chapter, text 51. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. Dear Aindra Prabhu, I personally don't feel so comfortable talking about you publicly in this format. I would definitely feel more open to talk about Aindra Prabhu in his room upstairs. But here we are, so let's give it a try. The first part of my offering is to you as an offering of gratitude, and that's because generally when someone is present before us, somehow we don't express much gratitude until they're gone. For example, so many devotees appreciate Aindra Prabhu now, we can see, but during his time with us physically, you know, there was a handful that you could say really loved him and supported him. But actually, it's so beautiful to see now this assembly of devotees and how many devotees really have an appreciation and love for you now that you've gone back home to Godhead. So here's my humble offering. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for re-establishing Krishna Balaram Mandir's 24-hour Kirtan in 1986, along with the team of devotees senior to us that's assembled here, like Nandanandam Prabhu, very senior devotee, Devaki Nandan, Nitai Prabhu, Ananda Chaitanya, Sailendra Krishna, Gopinath, Madhava Prabhu, and many, many other unsung soldiers. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for chanting in the mood of pleasing Krishna, Guru and Krishna. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for chanting in the mood of crying to the Lord's pure holy names, leading to Nama, Rupa, Guna, and Leelas. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for chanting in the mood of Nitya Navadvip Dham, especially during the Panchatattva installation in 2004. Thereafter, affixing a small picture of Panchatattva on your harmonium in every kirtan. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for attending the Mayapur festival. For the next subsequent 6 years, consecutively creating the foundation for what is now known as Kirtan Mela. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for setting a leadership example of Nava Anga Bhakti along with Pancha Anga Bhakti and numerous vrats after vrats after vrats. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for living your life in the ISKCON Gurukul building with the determination of showing that the whole of Goloka Vrindavan is within the 4 walls of Krishna Balaram Temple. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for convincing many devotees not to run here and there all over Braj outside of Srila Prabhupada's shelter. Dear Aindra Prabhu, thank you for being an instrument in the hands of the predecessor acharyas and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The whole idea is to chant in a way to please Lord Krishna. Thank you, Aindra Prabhu, for performing the Yuga Dharma by chanting Shuddhanam Sankirtan. If you're not chanting Shuddhanam, then you ain't got anything. That was one of his famous statements. Thank you for setting the example of Kirtan leadership by encouraging devotees to come to the minimum standards of 4 regulated principles, 16 rounds a day, and Mangalarti. Thank you for cultivating pure, unalloyed devotional spirit by being disinterested in name, fame, profit, adoration, and distinction. Thank you for showing us how to break it down, change it up, not speed up, don't drag it, and of course, drop the beat and let's cut loose and let it rip. Thank you for expressing nuances along with sympathetic vibrations to get everyone's collective attention thereby attracting Lord Krishna's attention. Still till this day, we feel that vibration as it continues to resonate in the hearts of many throughout the world. And a little side note for the current 24-hour Kirtan devotees. In the early days, before computers arrived in Vrindavan, the devotees were doing 8 hours of Kirtan a day. 2 shifts of 4 hours, starting at 6 a.m. And of course later when the Veda-based computer came to the VIG Gurukul office, then some research was done and Aindra Prabhu brought it down to 6 hours, 2 shifts of 3. So you guys have got it easy. Thank you for expressing the 3rd verse of Shishashtikam, Sri Shishashtikam. Trinad api sunechena, torod api suheshena, amanidena manidena kirtaniyas sadahari. One should chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind. Thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. Ready to offer all respects to others, in such a state of mind, one can chant the holy names of the Lord constantly. You set that example by not only using the same facilities as all of us in the ashram. When I mean facilities, I mean also the toilets, the bathrooms. And you set the example, Aindra Prabhu, by becoming the GBC, the great bathroom cleaner. Little side story, I came back before Janmashtami, hoping to be doing Kirtan with Aindra Prabhu, and all the men were saying, he's in the bathroom. I said, what do you mean he's in the bathroom? What? He's not coming for Kirtan? He's in the bathroom? I went in the bathroom and there he was with these cleaning machines, like a kind of polishing machine, cleaning the bathroom tiles with these goggles on. And I was like, Prabhu, what's going on? I came here for Kirtan. And he's like, this is my Kirtan. This is my Trinada Pisunechena. Take that squeegee, clean the floor. Help me clean this bathroom. And then he completely renovated it. And I remember Govinda saying, it was like an airport's bathroom. Remember? It was like an airport standard bathroom. That was quite something to see. Thank you for not candy coating the pill of purification you regularly administered as we often became bewildered by Maya. Thank you for chanting in the mood of the Vrajalilas, especially on the weekends when you attended your altar service. Thank you for chanting in the mood of crossing over the ocean of material suffering and attaining Goloka Vrindavan. In the Song of the Avanti Brahmana in the 11th canto, chapter 23, text 57, translation is, I shall cross over the insurmountable ocean of nations by being firmly fixed in the service of your lotus feet, Krishna. This was approved by the previous acharyas who were fixed in firm devotion to the Lord Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what comes to my mind when I think of Aindra Prabhu. Golok Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. Just to end on a personal note, last summer, of course, we were all kind of locked down in various locations in the world. And some of you are very fortunate to be locked down in Vrindavan. And I was unfortunately locked down in London. And after the UK government lifted the restrictions, allowing 6 people to meet in a public park, we started doing Harinam Sankirtan, totally independent from all the temples. And still till today, the temples are shut in the UK. So you should all be very grateful that you're here in Vrindavan. And I'm definitely very grateful that by your mercy, Prabhu, we are here in Vrindavan, getting to do Harinam Sankirtan and attending beautiful festivals, because most of the temples in the West are shut. But still to today, I'm happy to report to you that the Kirtan party that we started to create in London, doing public Harinams in the parks, is now spreading to more and more public parks and creating more and more Kirtan parties. And this performance of Harinam Sankirtan is driven by your inspiration. For it is by your inspiration that this 24-hour Kirtan party is still continuing to this day. So thank you very much, Aindra Prabhu, for being the pure devotee that you are and inspiring many of us. Your exemplary life is evidence of this process that Krishna consciousness really works. And it's such a simple, easy process. All we have to do is chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yugadama Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Back home, back to Godhead Ki Jai.
So we are very fortunate to be assembled here in Sri Vrindavan Dham on this auspicious day of the appearance of Aindra Prabhu, which is also the disappearance of Govinda Ghosh, who was an associate of the Lord and who was also a great kirtaniya. So already we can see that Aindra Prabhu, he appeared on a day when the great personality disappeared. And he also disappeared when another great kirtaniyas appearance is celebrated, Parkrishwar Pandit. Of course, maybe the tithis were overlapping. It was Hera Panchami, also that day, when he left the body, according to the tithi. But evening time, most probably the tithi of Shashti, which is the appearance of Parkrishwar Pandit, happened to be one of the most wonderful kirtaniyas of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As we know, one time he was, as Mahaprabhu was chanting and dancing, he was also chanting and dancing, and he was not able to stop. And he was chanting and dancing for 72 hours. So we can see that the connection is there with the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Kali Yuga avatar, who has come. He's not different from Radha and Krishna, and he has come to establish the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy names, the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the great devotees of the Lord, they are empowered by their spiritual master, by the Guru Parampara, especially Rupa Goswami, because we are known as Rupanuga Vaishnavas. And they are empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the associates of Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit. And of course, the connection is there because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not different from Radha and Krishna. And the associates of Mahaprabhu, they are the associates of Radha and Krishna. So automatically by taking shelter of Mahaprabhu, by chanting the holy names, by taking shelter of the associates of Mahaprabhu, then also we will be able to take shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna and the associates of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, Lalita, Vishaka, Rupa, Rati Manjari. So Aindra Prabhu, he was one of these, the great personalities empowered by Guru, Gauranga and Krishna. So today we assembled on the appearance day of him. So, which is by the great devotees, so they are also known as the representatives of Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of the Lord. So they are the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, also by hearing about Aindra Prabhu, by speaking about him, by following what he has taught, taking that into our life to the best of our ability, then we will be blessed by him and by the Lord, because the spiritual master, the great personalities, they are the embodiment of the mercy, Krishna Kripa Sri Murti. So Aindra Prabhu is the embodiment of the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the mercy of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. Therefore he was able to do what he did. And as I know him, I was very fortunate to have met him and have spent so much time with him. First time I met him was in New York, 1984. And I immediately made some friendship with him because it is said also the birds of same feather, they flock together. Like the swans are together, the peacocks are together, the parrots are together. Of course, even those who are not so nice, the crows also do it together. But I'm not saying I'm a wonderful devotee, but he's a wonderful devotee.
And I like this mood. And so we should be in the association of those who have the same mood as we are having or aspiring for. Svajatya Bhaktas. So he was completely absorbed in chanting the holy names for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada to deliver the fallen conditioned souls, for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu, for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. He was chanting to please Guru, Gauranga and Krishna, not to show that I am a great kirtaniya, no. So that is the Shuddha Bhav of the Shuddha Bhakta. Simply for the pleasure of Guru, Gauranga and Krishna, chanting Harinam, even Japa. So when I met him in New York, 1984, he was completely absorbed in chanting the holy names every day, going out. So as you had heard certainly that he had transferred a truck into a temple by opening the side and having his beloved deities of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada and Sri Sri Gonitai. And so he was taking them out every day, or they were taking him out every day to distribute the holy names to the fallen conditioned souls. And definitely in New York, of course, materially speaking, it is one of the most important places in the world. But from the spiritual point of view, many sinful activities are going on there. And in the age of Kali, everyone is actually fallen, but especially in the West, they are much more fallen than, for example, in Bharatvarsha, Punya Bhumi, in India, with the many holy places. Many persons are following the Vaishnav culture, the Vedic culture. So, but in the West, especially in New York, so many sinful activities are being performed there. Of course, some pious persons may be there, some pious Christians, maybe some pious Muslims, or some pious Hindus may be there, but generally speaking, everyone is fallen. So he was there chanting the holy names, trying to bring people to Krishna consciousness. And he was going out every day, also at least for 6 or 8 hours. And but by the influence of the external energy, which is very strong everywhere, even in Vrindavan, although Vrindavan is holy place, but it's a material covering there also, of Maya. But in the Western world, especially in New York, there's Maya full on. And there to give people, or try to bring people to God consciousness, to spiritual life, and what to speak of Krishna consciousness, it takes a lot of effort. Like the acharyas used to say, they spend gallons of blood to make one devotee. So it means so much endeavor, so much sacrifice has to be done in order to be able to bring people to Krishna consciousness. So he was so much focused, completely focused on chanting the holy names for the benefit of the fallen, conditioned souls. At that time already I could see that he was highly advanced, because he was chanting, he was doing Harinam, and he was trying to chant 64 rounds as much as possible, especially doing Chaturmas, but other times also. And so I could see he was extremely advanced. So he was so devotional, but he was also very knowledgeable and extremely renounced. So symptom of a great devotee, completely attached to Krishna and detached from this material world. So the austerities he was performing, I never saw anybody else in our society doing the austerity as he was doing. Chaturmas Vrat, just eating khichari once a day. Chandrayan Vrat, putting the hands behind and starting from the full moon and then decreasing by 1 bite every day till Amavasya, hardly eating anything. And then again and eating from the floor. Who can do that? It's extremely difficult. Some devotees were there, and we were also trying to eat 1 time khichari a day, but it's not easy. And hardly anybody can do that for 4 months. So his devotion was pure, and so as a great devotee then so he was extremely knowledgeable, he had pure knowledge, and revealed, of course, by studying the scripture, by revelation also, because of his devotion, because of embracing the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy names. So he had deep realizations about the process, about the Lord and his pastimes, and Radha and Krishna. So practical realization, and that is actually the goal. We know we are not this body, we are spirit, soul, but then we have to practically realize. And I could see that he was such a person that he was not just speaking, but he was realized. It was realized knowledge which he was speaking. And I spent almost every day some time with him. I was a pujari, worshipping Radha Govinda. At that time, not many devotees in the temple to do the seva. I was doing most of the seva. Hardly anybody going out on Sankirtan. But he was doing that every day. But he was then not so much following the program as the other devotees in the temple. But he was doing his deity worship, and then he was trying to go out as much as possible, chanting the holy names. And a few times I joined him also, because for some time I was asked to take care of the new bhaktas. I used to go and join him, and in the streets of New York, so day by day. Quite some devotees slowly but surely joined his party, and they joined the temple also. Frankly speaking, there were not so many devotees at that time in the temple joining or staying or even being with him all the time. But he did something definitely, and giving the mercy to some devotees. And of course we have to see that by performance of Harinam, by distributing the books, by giving Mahaprasadam, anyone who comes in contact with a devotee, especially advanced devotee, so that he will get so much benefit. It may not be seen directly or immediately, but it is there and it will fructify in some time. And therefore we can see, and we have seen, and we are seeing now still, that after he came to Vrindavan, he was doing Sankirtan, and then slowly but surely more and more devotees actually appreciated Aindra Prabhu. Even after he left his world, of course due to internet also, and then his cassettes which were made here and then distributed all over the world, many devotees became so much inspired by hearing Aindra Prabhu chanting through these cassettes, but many of them, surely, they had come in contact with him just for a little while, and then after some time they just also realized that this is such a wonderful process, this is such a wonderful devotee, and then they also take up Krishna consciousness, and then they are able to surrender. And if not in this lifetime, then we have faith, and we know in the next lifetime one can take up Krishna consciousness. So we have to be very patient with ourselves and with others. It is not that everyone can immediately come to the highest stage like Aindra Prabhu. So he's an exceptional personality, and we know that definitely it is not just he just started Krishna consciousness in this lifetime, but it is an ongoing process. And we can see as soon as he joined the devotees, he immediately understood what is the essence. Sara Grahi Vaishnav. What is the essence, the sar of the Vedic literatures, of the Bhagavatam, of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy? Immediately he could understand and embraced it, and then he was distributing it. So unless one has previous impressions, it is not possible to immediately come to a high level of spiritual understanding and become completely absorbed. He told me also that he met Prabhupada only one time. And the one time where he was in the West, and he had heard, and devotees had heard, that Prabhupada is coming to our temple. And so then, as it was the custom amongst the devotees, they were all ready to receive Srila Prabhupada How? By chanting the holy names in Kirtan with kartals and the mridangas. So when Prabhupada came to his temple where he was staying, so they received him. They were chanting the holy names and playing kartals, and Aindra Prabhu, at that time he was playing the mridanga, and from the top of his heart or lungs and voice he was chanting the holy names, and Prabhupada looked at him and said, Jai. And so then he said that I took that as Prabhupada's mercy and instruction to take the chanting of the holy names to heart and take it the mission of my life to do that throughout my life. So one time he met Srila Prabhupada and had an exchange, and he only said one word, Jai, victory. And as we know, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So Param Vijayate, so that the victory will be there individually and collectively if we are chanting the holy names, especially in Kirtan, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So the holy names, the Mahamantra in Kirtan, that was the life and soul, that was everything for him. Radha Krishna were present there. I had this experience also. The first time we observed the appearance day of Aindra Prabhu, I can't remember the year, maybe 2000 or 2001. That was in one devotee's house, Giridhari Das Prabhu, who stayed in many years in Radhakund, but he stayed next to the Jamuna. He had made his place there, and he was a householder. He was married, but a wonderful devotee, also dedicated to Aindra Prabhu, following Aindra Prabhu. And so we were there, and then the devotees were already chanting the holy names, the Maha Mantra. Aindra Prabhu and the devotees are responding. And then I came down to his place, and then sitting down, and as he was chanting, I could perceive Krishna as he was chanting. Even without chanting myself, but he was chanting, and when the pure devotee is speaking or chanting the holy names, then Krishna is actually present there. And when we're listening receptively, then actually Krishna can enter our hearts also by hearing the sound vibration of the holy names emanating from the pure devotee while he's speaking Krishna Katha or while he's chanting the holy names. So it was a very wonderful experience. And and that was on the appearance day, maybe 2000 or 2001, when it was celebrated the first time. And many wonderful experiences I had with Aindra Prabhu. And well, in New York, joining the Kirtan here in Vrindavan, because of my service to the deities, I didn't really have time to sit down with the devotees in joining the Kirtan, although with my heart I'm there, but due to my services, I was not really able to spend much time in regards to Kirtan, except a few times, few places when we are together invited in one place for Kirtan. And in the beginning especially was hardly going to anybody else's place, even for Kirtan. But Kirtan was in the temple. But then later on, some devotees sometimes invited him, even in daily sometimes, but he did not go very often. But he came to my house actually for Govardhan Puja, for the last few years of his presence here. And of course at that time I was able to join for a little while also. I was preparing for Govardhan Puja in my house, which is usually always the day before Govardhan Puja in the temple. So we always had wonderful kirtans in my place also. And Yadavendra Prabhu is here, or Yadavendra is here? Yadavendra is not here, he was just here also. Yeah, so he is also follower of Aindra Prabhu, and then I have a good relationship with him also, and he was always trying. He was also supporting Aindra Prabhu, especially financially. There was a need sometimes, and he was telling me also that that Aindra Prabhu told him one time that that the kirtans, I mean, besides the temple, one of the most wonderful experiences in kirtan I had that Aindra Prabhu was saying in my place. So he used to like to come to my place. Of course, it's a beautiful place by Krishna's mercy. But the other association with him was by discussing Krishna Katha. Of course, mostly being senior to me from the material point of view in years, a few years older, and has joined the movement a few years before me. So he was senior. So when there was Krishna Katha, then usually, I mean, maybe I had one question, and then he was talking for 1 hour or 2 hours. And many times I had to say, sorry Prabhu, but I have some other seva. And, but it was always extremely enlivening speaking to him, being with him, because he was just speaking Krishna Katha. There was never any prajalpa, only Krishna Katha. Of course, sometimes he was not agreeing with some of the philosophical points brought out in the classes, and many times he voiced also used to stay in the Radhesham side during the class, chanting also japa, as the devotees are doing, because Akhanda Kirtan has to be there 24 hours, the Maha Mantra. And then the end of the class, any questions? And then Aindra Prabhu raises his hands, and then mostly he was giving some comments for 5 or 10 minutes. And but always to the point, and he had the highest understanding of the tattva. So he was Shastra, he knew the Shastra, he knew the Siddhanta, he was Shastravid, Siddhantavid, Rasa Tattvavid. He knew the Shastra very well, Gaudiya Vaishnava Shastra. He knew the conclusions of the Shastra very well, and he was expert in relishing the transcendental loving exchange of Radha and Krishna, Rasa Tattva. He was expert in that, and because, so he was doing Harinam 6 hours or 8 hours in the beginning, because there were hardly any devotees, but then he was studying also, hearing one devotee reading to him while he was doing the puja. So he was not only doing Harinam, but he was doing puja for 3-4 hours, and he was hearing for 3-4 hours the scriptures, and he was speaking to the devotees for 3-4 hours, and so he had hardly any time for eating, as the great devotees doing. Sometimes only 2-3 hours. Sometimes he was doing his seva till 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, and then he had to go and he was dressing the deities Saturday and Sunday, and then he used to come, and I used to see him also, I'm really tired. I took rest at 3 o'clock for half an hour. And then of course he used to take rest after a little during the day also, a few hours. But he was really like the Goswamis, completely absorbed in Kirtan, Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Paro, Prema Amritam Bonidhi. And then so just the perfect example of the descriptions of the highly advanced devotees, always absorbed in Kirtan and Krishna Katha and in Seva. And he was expert in dressing the deities, kind of revolution in our society, how to dress the deities in a very natural and wonderful and beautiful way. Just when you look at the deities, you could see Radha Krishna ready to dance. Like at the beginning, everything was straight, La Lakshmi and Narayan. They are straight, the mukha is straight, the thinking is straight, the speaking is straight, the looking is straight. But in Braj Bhav, Krishna is Tribang Lalit, is bent in 3 places. He's sometimes speaking not completely straight, he's not thinking straight in Braj Bhav. So Aindra Prabhu, he was most expert in understanding all these subtleties of the Rasa Tattva, and he was able to give that. Because he had that, he was able to give that to others. And so we are so much indebted to us, and because of his purity, so just like Prabhupada or even Bhakti Siddhanta, when the great acharyas leave, they leave a legacy, and then the disciples, although they may not be so qualified, but then they can continue. Therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada's preaching is still going on. Our Prabhupada's preaching is still going on. And Aindra Prabhu's mood of kirtan and the bhav, that is still going on by his mercy. And therefore you can see so many devotees are here chanting very wonderful. There are so many, how many devotees now in the group? In the ashram? 16, 20? How many? 20 boys, in more than 20 in the ashram, and outside maybe 20. More than 20 outside who are committed. So therefore we have throughout the day. What about night time? It's going on the kirtan. They are night time. 3 devotees are there, or 3, 4. Okay. And so it is going on extremely nicely. When Aindra Prabhu was here, he was struggling, but he was just making the foundation, a strong foundation. And because of his hard work, now we can see that the next generation is continuing in a very wonderful way. And they are chanting in the same tunes he was chanting. And similarly the bhav is quite good. Of course, still have to work on the bhav to come to his level. That is not easy. And on his japa also, he was chanting at least 64 on Chaturmas or Purushottamas, sometimes 2 lakhs. So we are so much indebted to him, and so on this auspicious day we should pray to him that we may be able to assist him in his service of chanting the holy names and in distributing the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Radha Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Aindra Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Satchinandana Gaura Hari, Sri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Jnana Timirandasya, Jnananjana Salakaya, Chakshodanmilitam Yenam, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Bandeyam Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padagamalan Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitam Sha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunnavadi Paschatadeshatarine Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shiva Shabani Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Pavave Namaha Madhuyo Jvala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Sri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhantadvantarine Namo Gauri Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagyamuddaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padam Bhajayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Sarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaurari Vibhavavum Vishwam Nirdesha Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jagannathaya Te Namaha. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namamaha Vadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratise Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute. Jayatam Sarato Pangor Mama Manda Matergate Matsarvasva Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Drindaranya Kalpadrumado Srimad Ratnagar Simhasanaso Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishthali Visheva Manusmarami Shimam Rasarasarambi Vamse Vata Tatasita Karshan Venusanai Gopir Gopinata Shesuna Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priyam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Aindra Prabhu Das Iti Namine. Esa Pushpanjali Esa Pushpanjali Esa Pushpanjali Samarpayami. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki. His Grace Aindra Prabhu ki.